I've always had like a lot of friends, but in my 40s, it's crazy the amount of friendships I've made. And maybe because I threw myself into new environments where, I built a tribe really quickly and or became part of one. But I think as well because it's all the right people. Like it's not necessarily more is less or less is more. It's just so long as you're surrounded by the right people. And also like living overseas now, I realize like when I go back home to Australia, like I might have seen someone like 5 years ago or something, but when we see each other, it's like I just saw them yesterday. And it really is all about the present moment and how you spend that time. It goes back to like, when it comes to manifesting, like gratitude as well at its most simplest form. Gratitude is actually heaven on earth. To be so grateful for the sunrise, for the coffee, for the roof over our head, like that's heaven on earth when we can see things from that, I guess that filter, as opposed to like another day in the office and I don't have this and I don't have that. And you know what, like when you go into that spiral, and so it is, like that's what you're seeing, that's what you're feeling, and you're just going to attract and manifest more of that, as opposed to on the flip, if you're like, life is great and this and that, then you attract more of that.
And how is that? So you're creating all these powerful, intentional, beautiful experiences for others.
Yeah.
How about for yourself? I mean, who creates for you, or do you create for yourself, or how is that?
Can only create for yourself. I can't create for you because that's me controlling and manipulating your life. So that's why when you do this template, you focus on yourself. You don't focus on how the other person's going to feel or whatever. And that was one of my biggest lessons in life, was to choose me. Because I think most of us in this space, I think a lot of us at some point have always put other people's needs ahead of our own, especially if you're a mother, father, employee, employer. You're always putting other people's needs ahead of your own, and it's tiring, it's draining. And that's what I mean. Like then you start to feel, then the outer world reflects that as well. So going back to basics, which is just choosing yourself. And, my generation, to choose yourself meant, you're selfish, you don't care, or when it's actually the opposite. I don't like at this point in life, I've realized that there is so much unlearning to do from the age of 0 to now. And when you can unlearn what you've been taught and these unnecessary patterns, you actually remember who you are supposed to be. And that's peace. That is actually peace. What was the question again? I know that this can be edited because I went on a tangent.
So the experiences that you create for others. Yeah. So like, I mean, you don't join them, right? So you're creating it's specifically these experiences for them. But do you, would you enjoy these experiences as well, I guess? And
I'd only put someone on a trip if I'm going to enjoy it too. And I've got a cheeky smile because it's like, I'll probably just join them. Like, again, I've just created this experience where I don't have to pay for this trip because it's work. I get to just go, share it with my friends, meet new people. Like, that's the dream.
But that's the thing, right? We can create what we want. We don't need to wait for it to be offered to us or so.
Exactly.
We create from the inside.
Because like through all my like journeys and experiences, and I've come to the understanding that the universe is actually inside all of us. So, we're not separated from the universe. The universe is actually inside of us. So, co-creating with the universe is actually just like doing that yourself. And that's what connects us all. That's why energy is everything. That's why, like we can meet and hug for the first time. It's like, hi, because we have the same open energy, like, and it's that feeling where you can walk into a room and feel like cold shivers and really uncomfortable because it's a negative energy. Like you can wear masks, but you can't hide from who you truly are. That's all energy.
Or it's painful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. And so when people say, I haven't met great people, I haven't done this or I haven't done that, it's because there's a part of them that's actually the dark shadow of themselves, that they're attracting these people because they're low vibrating themselves, as in they're not happy. So they're attracting more unhappy people. And then it just reminds you of how unhappy you actually are.
That's right. Yeah. And it's a tough truth to accept, right? To understand, I may be responsible for that. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And just me, no one to blame.
Yeah, exactly. And also trusting, back to the question about creating for yourself, also trusting in divine timing. and letting go of the how. So when it comes to manifesting, have the vision only to get the feeling. Once you've got the feeling, let go of the vision, because then you start to get too fixated on what it's supposed to look like. And so goes back to control. Then you're controlling the situation as opposed to allowing the universe to like give you something even better than you could possibly imagine. Like, imagine that. Like, imagine, you let go of the control and the universe just drops in something so amazing, and allow the universe to drop in the magic as opposed to trying to control what you think will be perfect. But what we think is perfect or the best option for us is only based off our own perception and previous experience. Like, if I was controlling the situation so much, I wouldn't have allowed a private jet company to like step into my life because this is the vision that I had,
Yeah, understand.
That's why it goes back to hold on to the essence and just step into it.